So that operation was necessary at that time. And then comes the 12th chapter. It's very interesting. After the shock, Arjuna asks Krishna, some say that those who think of the truth or the divine or the Almighty or whatever is formless and unreachable, almost unnameable, beyond all definitions, indestructible, and so on. Some say that those who worship or those who understand the divine in this respect as that which is not nameable or which is infinite and so on are great yogis. Some say that even those who think of the Lord as like you sitting before me in the form of Krishna, that they are great yogis. There is always this controversy going on. Even today, you talk to some people and they say, oh, Krishna is only God. Okay, I want you to hear what Krishna said in the Gita. So Arjuna's question is, which is true? Who are the great yogis? Those who worship me this way or those who worship me as I am? Now I want to again go a little away into a story which is very interesting. It's the question of formless and form, okay? Which is very often quite confusing. Formless, some say formless. Upanishads talk about the formless Brahman, which even the mind cannot reach. And there are other Narada Bhakti sutras which talk about Krishna as the God. So it's always confusing. Now, a little more than 100 years ago, there used to live in Calcutta another M. There's another M who wrote this beautiful text called the Gospel of Ramakrishna. His name was Mahendranath Gupta, and he always wrote as M. So, don't draw any conclusions, please. So, one day, as it can happen to any one of us, M had a fight with his wife and disgusted about some property matters and things. So he got fed up and he didn't know what to do. So his friend told him, there's a beautiful garden on the banks of the Hooghly River, a garden of Rani Rasmani. There's also a lovely temple of the goddess there. It's a beautiful place. Why don't you just go there and rest for a while? And if you are lucky, you might meet a Paramahamsa who lives there. So, there were two things which M was put off about. One was he had no intention of meeting any Paramahamsa. And second, he was from the Brahmo Samaj. And the Brahmo Samaj believed in God without form. So when he said, there is a goddess temple there, he said, okay. Anyway, he decided, let's go. So he got into a horse buggy and it went. What happened was, when it reached just near the garden of Dakshineshwar, the axle broke, so he had to get out. Sometimes accidents happen, which are good. What happens, you're driving and suddenly some accident takes place and suddenly somebody comes to you and says, I can help you. Turns out that he may be your guru. Who knows? You don't know. So anyway, or maybe future wife. So, because of the accident, he had to get down. So he went into this garden. And he was sitting and enjoying the garden. It was nice. He didn't want to go near the temple, he could see it. And then he saw a man coming, looking very like a Bengali Babu, gentleman. You see the last part of Ramakrishna's life, you can get those pictures where he has a beard and all that. Before that, he was quite clean shaved. He was very fair, reddish. And he saw this man coming with a close haircut and he chewed pan, so the lips were red. And he wore the typical Bengali dhoti, red bordered dhoti, and polished leather jutis. Somebody came and M asked him, he thought, I heard that there is a Paramahamsa living here, do you know? He said, forget about Paramahamsa, sit down. So they sat down and had a nice chit-chat. For a long time M didn't realize who it was. They had a long, which was good. Otherwise in awe he might not have asked anything. Suddenly he asked him a question. You're a young man, so do you believe in God with form or without form? He was a Brahma Samajist, so he said God is without form. So he said, okay, that's a good idea too. The Rishis have said so in the Upanishads. God is without form, okay. Now one more question. This God of yours, does he have a special heaven where he lives, or is he everywhere, all-pervading, everywhere? Well, he's everywhere, he said. He's everywhere, okay. So you see the temple there? There's an image of the goddess there. Yes, sir. So if he's everywhere, can't he be inside that too? Why do you exclude? Nobody had asked him a question like this. He was himself a professor, you know, and for a second he didn't know what to say. Then he said, but, you know, sir, Mahasaya, he said, even though it's like that, but people worship the image, not knowing that there is the divinity inside, so we have to teach. He said, this is the problem with you guys. You know nothing, but you want to teach others. So M was stunned, he didn't know what to say. So he went back, but he decided, no, I'm not going back here, coming back to see this guy. So he walked out. Several days later, this guy could only go on Sundays because he was a headmaster of a school. So one Sunday, as he entered, suddenly it occurred to him, hey, let me go and see this man who I met the other day. He didn't know why, but he said, hey, there's something, I must go and see him. So he came. As soon as he entered the little room where Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, who everybody generally referred to as Thakur, was sitting there and talking to these young boys. One of them became Swami Vivekananda and so on. As soon as he entered the room, all the young people laughed loudly. So he was confused. He said, why are they laughing? Do I look like a clown? So after the discussion, when they were leaving, he asked them, what happened? Why did you guys suddenly laugh loudly? Is something funny has happened? Do I look funny? He said, no. You know what happened? He said, 10 minutes ago, the master was telling us a story about a priest who mixed opium in the milk and kept it out in a bowl. So a peacock came and drank it. You know what's opium? Anybody here who doesn't know opium? Well, heroin is made from opium. So the peacock drank it once, and then it went back. And then every day at the same time, the peacock used to come back because there was opium in the milk. Like from Manila there are peacocks. Yeah. So, so I came back to drink. So the boys didn't understand the stories of said which peacock. But Thakur was quite famous for telling things which couldn't be understood. I mean, some nonsense also sometimes they thought. So they kept quiet. And then after 2 minutes he said, the peacock is coming. So they looked and they found this man coming. So they burst out laughing. So that's why we laughed. So I started thinking, what is this pull that's taking me there? And how did he know that I was coming? Various thoughts went through his mind. Anyway, so I hope we are all awake. Why did I say this story? Because you never know. When the mind becomes calm, you can either go into Sushupti, which is deep sleep, or into Turiya, which is the highest balancing point. So, now I forgot. Form and formless. Okay, so that was Arjuna's question. So what do you think? So according to you, he says to Krishna, who do you think is the greatest yogis? Tell me. Because if you say, I accept it, an authority, what other authority do I need than somebody who suddenly becomes everything? You tell me. So in his own way, Krishna answers that question saying it's okay. You can think of the Supreme Being as completely formless and so on, that's all fine. But everybody cannot do it. Not so easy to do that. Because it's like jumping, this is my words, not from the Gita. It's like jumping into the ocean without a life belt when you want to learn to swim. It's not so easy. So therefore, and plus, the human being is very form-oriented. Form-oriented. How do I recognize you? By your form. In the Nyaya Sutras, it's called Nama Rupa, which means name and form. When I see somebody and I hear the name, immediately I conjure up the picture of the person. This is how we live on this earth, day-to-day life. Or when I see the form, I say, oh, this is the person. I say the name. They're interlinked. And all our lives are like that, complete lives. Now to suddenly look at something with no name and form is not easily possible to most people because we are form-oriented. Well, the rishis might have done it, you may be able to do some. But the form is also pervaded by the formless Supreme. It's not as if it's only there and not here. And plus, you might say, no, I am not form. Okay. Early in the morning when we wake up, generally, what do? Look at ourselves in the mirror. Oh, 2 more wrinkles have come. I forgot to dye this part. I don't dye, I'm just saying. I decided at one point it's better to die than to die. So, no offense. And then, how careful we are looking at ourselves in the mirror. So aren't we in love with our own form? And how are we so free of form? So Krishna says, it's not so easy. So a sound, a symbol, an image may be necessary. There may be some advanced people who don't need it, but it's necessary. But, he says, the importance is not in what way you worship God or in what way you conceive of the Supreme or the truth. If you don't want to use the word God, after Richard Dawkins wrote, the God delusion, the God word is not in fashion. Say God and everybody goes, No, can't be. Because Richard Dawkins is the new Rishi of the new age. No. So I'm saying truth. Now nobody's going to challenge that. So, so what? Somebody came and then... the problem is here is always dissolved and then I try to gather it. And, okay. So... yeah. So Krishna says to Arjuna, am I going senile? No. Krishna says to Arjuna, it's not how you think or conceive of or worship the Supreme that is important. That you might be called a great yogi. A great yogi has to have some qualities. If these qualities exist, no matter how you worship or how you conceive of the Lord or the truth, you're a great yogi. Or he interchanges the word yogi with bhakta. Yaha bhakta same priya. That devotee is dear to me. And what are the qualities? Qualities are, one, not what I am saying, what's from the Gita. I don't want to bestow myself with so much authority as first, samnyam indriya gramam, one who has control over his sense organs. Which is not to say that you have to abstain from everything and become a lifelong celibate. That's not what we're saying. One who has control over our sense organ means usually the senses run away with the mind. Can the mind, for a change, control the senses and use them when required and not allow them to run riot? Samniyam indriya gramam, can one have some hold? It's because of that that half our problems in this world are because of too much sensory indulgence. And then once you miss it, you get very angry. And anger is the root of many troubles in this world. Suppose I constantly desire something. Okay? I desire that chair. I don't, I'm just saying, I desire that chair. And I want it with all my life, and you take it away. So what happens? I get angry. I don't want to quote it from the Gita, but there's a beautiful sloka which shows how desire ends up in anger. Anger in loss of memory. Loss of memory brings confusion, and totally one is annihilated. He's come with a beautiful young lady, and I want her, and then what happens? He gets angry with me. I'm joking, okay? So the root is the senses. If we have some control over them, then you can stay stable. You won't get suddenly flare up. You won't get suddenly depressed. You won't be suddenly excited, which is what happens in our lives, up and down. Such a person cannot even meditate. How is it possible? Can I be up and down in my daily life all the time and sit for 10 minutes? This is not possible. The mind develops a habit as it is throughout the day. Now I'm saying this as people think for all this there must be some secret technique. First you have to live the life, then the techniques come. There are no secret techniques. Even in this much is understood, the mind has already calmed down a bit. Then that's called natural meditation. Okay, so, oh my God, it's already 6. Samnyam indriya gramam, can we keep our senses under control? Can I tell you a little joke? Apparently, please, no offense to Christians, it's just a joke. I love Jesus very much, so please. He was one of the most wonderful beings I have read about or seen, though I haven't, well, anyway. So, this is a joke about somebody who sent a young priest into the crypts to look at the old textbooks of religion. And they waited for a whole day and this guy is not coming back. So they said, let's go make an inquiry. So they went down to check what's happening. The guy was hitting his head on the wall and crying and wailing aloud, saying, oh my God, what did we do? They should celebrate and we forgot the R. You understand? We forgot to read the R, so it became celibate. So, I'm not against celibacy, it's okay, but it has to be done very carefully, otherwise it might end up as some kind of a psychological disorder. One has to watch out carefully. Well, for people who are married, this problem is not there. For others, it has to be done very carefully. So anyway, instead of allowing your senses to run away with you, can put some kind of control over them. Bring them back, keep them under. So that is one qualification. Krishna says, if a person possesses that and is a master of that, then I consider that person to be a great yogi or a bhakta. Number two, sarvatra samabuddhaya. Can you, under all circumstances, develop tranquility of mind? Normally it's not so. Sitoshna sukha dukkheshu. In heat and in cold, in sorrow and in happiness, can we sustain a clear, quiet, balanced mind? And also, tulya nindastu tirmoni, which means is it possible to keep your mind unaffected by praise or insult or blame? Normally you know how it is. If you praise me, I'm happy, I'm in cloud nine. The moment you insult or abuse me, I'm down in the dumps. My mind is completely controlled by what the public thinks or what you say. I personally think that blame is better in some ways than praise, because praise can very often become flattery. If somebody is praising you too much, watch out. There must be something there, either he's going to take over your business or something. Watch out carefully. I'm not suspicious, but we had a nice song in Hindi in the old days, Lata Mangeshkar, Meethi Meethi Baaton Se Bachna Zara. You know? So, the thing is, it doesn't matter what others think. Your life is yours. So who cares what others think? Well, that lesson you can learn from politicians. I mean, we're not looking at that. Whatever you say doesn't matter. They do their thing, which may be good or bad. I'm just saying that you can learn lessons from everybody. You can't separate anybody. Everybody is a human being, okay? So, this is an important factor. That you live. Okay, now suppose I don't know English. Suppose. And you call me a fool, what does it matter? In fact, if I know Hindi, I might think you're calling me a flower, fool. And be very happy about it, not knowing that you call me a fool. Right? So, these are all language-based reactions. They really don't mean anything. You're what you are, no matter what anybody thinks you are. So if you can live that way, even in daily life, religious life, meditation, stay clear of these things. And better still, if you go a step ahead, if somebody insults you or blames you, be more kind to that person. It's not easy, I understand. But then you want to be a bhakta or a yogi. Not enough if you sing every day. This is what Krishna says, okay, not me. I agree, of course. So, and what is the third? Third quality which a person would need to be called a yogi or a bhakta by Krishna in the Gita.
Devotee. Devotion.
So that is what we are looking at. No, the third point, yeah?
Kind to all living beings.
Yes. Sarva bhuta hite rata. One who has the welfare of all living beings in, I was about to say in her and his heart. Krishna says in the Gita, if you follow these two principles, at least to some extent, then I will call you a bhakta. Yaha bhakta same priya, that bhakta is dear to me. The rest doesn't matter whether you think of me with form, without form, that doesn't matter. What technique you practice, that's okay, but the lifestyle has to change, at least a little bit, to make a dent. In fact, when the lifestyle changes even a little bit, you're automatically calm and you can meditate. Who cares? You do your thing and you meditate. So, on the next question is, you know why I'm saying next question? Because I can avoid more questions. The next question is, if that is so, if we are spiritual or our mind is going into the deep core of our inner being, can you function in this world? Now that is the chapter on karma yoga. Krishna says, yes, in fact you can function in this world better than before. Why? Because you get what is known as one-pointed attention. Your mind is not distracted. So there is one-pointed attention, combined with some form of meditation, of course. And then, because there are practicals always, and then you can apply the same one-pointedness to your daily work. And if you do that, generally you're okay. And if you're not okay, consider it to be a preparation for a better life. Maybe something is going wrong to show you that this is not the end of life, there's something more. But you can be functional. I'm telling you that I have to work so much. I do so much work. I travel so much. I'm 69 years old now. Physically. I like to think I'm 20 or 13, but physically I'm 69 years old, but I do so much work, I meet people, I talk, I discuss, I travel, but I'm okay. I mean, plus responsibility of having a family. I'm not saying there is no difficulty. Sometimes there are difficulties, especially when you have really serious seekers who are full of questions. And you can't say no. You have to deal with it. I usually say, first go closer, then your questions will become less. Because I'm not saying you shouldn't ask questions, I'm just saying that when you understand things, when the mind settles down, because there is no end to questions until you have your personal experience, anubhava. Till then, you give a question, I answer it. 2 hours or 10 minutes later you have another question, then I answer it. It is an endless cycle. When one finally realizes that this endless cycle stops only when I understand that it is an endless cycle, then everything is over. But you should of course ask questions. I don't ask people to put their brains in the freezer, no. Think. But the understanding has to come within oneself. So we have roughly dealt with the Gita. Roughly, it's such a 18 chapters, you can't do it in an hour, but we've kind of had an outline going through. And in the last chapter is Sannyasa Yoga, where Krishna explains to Arjuna and to all of us, because we are all Arjunas that way, that sannyasa is not giving up all your work and retiring into the forest, but it is to be able to do your work without being attached to it. And last, if you are into the spiritual life, if you want to check if you're really progressing in some way, first check yourself once in a while and see if your mind is in equilibrium and calm at all times. It's very easy to sit here and smile at you for 1 hour, but what happens when I go home and somebody calls me a name? Does it sustain, or am I different? So, this is something to be noted. Is your mind calming down, or is it getting more agitated? No matter what visions you have, it doesn't matter. As long as the mind is not clean and quiet and tranquil, the visions don't really matter, because you cannot have as many visions as a pure addict or I'm sorry I don't use the word addict, but like somebody who takes peyote or somebody who takes LSD. They may have many visions, but is the mind become calm and tranquil? That's the central question. I know that, for instance, I met a lady today who said she belongs to the native Indian church and they use peyote, which is a mushroom. And she said the definition of peyote is universal consciousness. I said to her that I don't take peyote, but that universal consciousness mushrooms in me all the time, so I don't need it. So, is it possible to live in that joy? I think it is possible. And before you, I think in some way it's possible to do that, which is why I'm like you. Or when in Rome, do as the Romans do, at least pretend to do as the Romans do, so that others get a little more confidence. So this guy is normal. I'm not, okay, I'm totally abnormal. This guy is normal, so we can also do it. You can also do it. Regarding the idea that is it possible to live in this world with a kind and tranquil mind so that one can meditate and go into the depths of one's consciousness. When my master, my teacher, Maheshwarnath Babaji, used to tell me that if you meditate in a cave for 13 hours every day for 13 years, and if you think your mind is tranquil and you're free of anger and jealousy and all these things, you're stupid, because who are you angry with in the cave? What are you jealous about? There's nobody out there. Huh? The moment you come out of the cave and get into the bus and somebody gives you one kick on your leg, then you know where you stand. Especially if it's a stiletto heel, you know what happens. Then you know where you stand. So therefore, spiritual life, the opportunity we are given in this world is the opportunity to build up your spiritual life, because you can understand your state of mind only in communion with others. You can't do it in isolation. It's not possible to do that. And among all this, I think jealousy is quite an unexplainable phenomenon. Because nothing is happening to me. Somebody is becoming nice and I'm burning. It's... In my state, in India, I was born and brought up in the southernmost part of India called Kerala. We have a saying, Kashandikyum Kushumbinum Marinilla, in Malayalam, which means there is no medicine for baldness and jealousy. Two things. So, if you can get free of it, that's nice. In fact, you must rejoice when somebody is happy. Because somebody and you are not, they're different bodies. Somebody, this body, that body, it's one. So when other persons are happy, you should be happy. Why are you sad? I love cars, which doesn't mean that I want to have a car. It's nice to see nice, young, beautiful, handsome people sitting in a nice sporting car and that doesn't mean I said, I want the car. It's nice to see them. So it's not that you keep your eyes closed and don't look at anything because you're afraid. If I look, I get jealous. It's that there's nothing wrong with looking at beautiful flowers, beautiful scenery, I don't want to add anything more, and so on. But it might be misunderstood. The problem comes when I say, oh, I must pluck this and put it in my own pocket. I won't give it to anybody else. That's the problem. So a yogi lives in that freedom. He thinks your joy is my joy. Well, it doesn't apply to your job, of course. If you're jobless and somebody gets a job, you have to be practical also in this life. Like the Arabs say, trust in God but tie your camel. So now I rest my case. Thank you. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Now,